Darla Jackson. Darla Jackson was accused of killing Navy Chief Petty Officer Zach Boob in a road rage crash on State Route 94 on May 28, 2015. She pleaded guilty to killing a U.S. Navy service member in a road rage incident in San Diego, sobbed in court Friday after learning her punishment. Darla Jackson, 27, was sentenced to 6 years in prison for the death of U.S. Navy Chief Petty Officer Zachary Boob, 39. She was facing between 3 to 11 years in prison, but the judge gave her a midterm, opting for 6 years behind bars. Jackson has already spent 2 years in jail for the crime, which will be counted toward her total sentence. Upon hearing her fate, Jackson began to weep. Jackson sighed deeply and cried as she heard the victim's family speak in court. She also had a chance to address the court. According to Jackson and witnesses, as Jackson and Boob interacted on the freeway, Boob kicked the passenger side door of Jackson's car and darted off. Jackson chased him to get his license plate number but wound up hitting and killing him with her car. Prosecutors said the crash was a deadly case of road rage. Megan Firamusca. A Texas woman accused of killing a close friend in 2019. Megan Firamusca, 37, was sentenced to 55 years in prison for the death of Heidi Broussard, 33, Travis County District Attorney Jose Garza announced in a statement. Firamusca waived her right to appeal. The conviction follows a crime in Austin, Texas, that began with the disappearance of a 3-week-old baby girl and was followed with widening interest as the investigation unfolded and police zeroed in on Firamusca. Police say the child was later found at a home in the Houston area along with Broussard's body in the trunk of Firamusca's car. Firamusca abducted Broussard on December 12, 2019, and packed her into a black duffel. Broussard had last been seen dropping off an older child at an elementary school in Austin. Her death was ruled homicide by strangulation. The baby, Margot Carey, was returned to her father. Firamusca and Broussard were friends who met about a decade ago at church camp. At one point, Firamusca had a key to Broussard's apartment and the women discussed being pregnant together. Eileen Alderette. A Las Vegas woman received a maximum sentence of 26 to 65 years in prison for a high-speed DUI crash that killed an 8-year-old boy and left his parents seriously injured. Emotions were raw during the sentencing of Eileen Alderette, 25, who caused the August 2018 crash that left Levi Echenique dead. Justice for Levi, for the love of Levi, was written on the shirts of family members who were in the Clark County District Courtroom and provided powerful impact statements. Alderette, the driver, was speeding at 103 miles per hour when she slammed into the family's car. She sobbed loudly throughout the sentencing. Alderette had pleaded guilty to 1 count of second-degree murder and 2 counts of DUI for the August 31st crash at Harmon and Eastern Avenues to avoid a trial. Her attorney asked the judge to consider that Alderette had never been in trouble with the law and didn't set out to do this intentionally. Several of Levi's family members testified and asked for the maximum sentence. The family asked the judge to set an example for the community because it could help save other lives. He asked the judge for the maximum sentence, saying that's what his brother would have wanted. Alderette the entire time during her 90-minute sentencing hearing. "I'm so sorry for the family I hurt," Alderette said. Prosecutors said it's too late for apologies. Alderette was also ordered to pay the family restitution of $467,000. Courtney Clenny. Social media model Courtney Clenny will remain in jail as she awaits trial, accused of fatally stabbing her boyfriend. A judge denied her bond after state prosecutors argued that Clenny was a flight risk because of the money she's made on sites like OnlyFans. Clenny, who has more than 2 million followers on OnlyFans, earned over $900,000 in 2020 and more than $1.8 million the following year. The 26-year-old is charged with second-degree murder with a deadly weapon in the stabbing death of Christian Toby Abumsali at a Miami condo complex in April. Clenny, who was arrested in August in Hawaii, has pleaded not guilty. On the day of Abumsali's death, he left the apartment at 1:15 p.m. and returned at 4:33 p.m. with sandwiches for the pair. Clenny called her mother at 4:43 p.m. and spoke for 6 minutes, and called her again at 4:49 and spoke for 7 minutes, Rundle said. At 4:57, she called 911 to report that Abumsali had been stabbed. During that time, neighbors called the building about a disturbance and security also called 911. Abumsali can be heard saying that he was dying and losing feeling in his arm on a 911 call, and that Clenny was heard saying, "I'm so sorry." When police arrived, Clenny was cradling Abumsali's body, according to her arrest warrant. He later died of his injuries at the hospital. The OnlyFans broke down in tears as detectives informed her of his death in an interview room. In her dressing gown, waiting for the interview to start, she puts her hands as if she was praying and looks down at the table, speaking too low for the camera to pick up her words before the officers interviewing her walk in. Alexandria Thomas. Alexandria Thomas, accused of stabbing her boyfriend in a Publix parking lot, told investigators she poked him with the knife. Alexandria Thomas, 18, broke down during her first appearance when the judge said that doctors placed the victim, Joseph Genovese, into a medically induced coma because of the severity of his injuries. Investigators with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office said the two got into a fight in the parking lot of the Publix store in Royal Palm Beach, when Thomas pulled out an 8-inch knife from her purse and stabbed Genovese in the chest. It's unclear why the couple was arguing. Thomas called 911 and told the dispatcher what she had done. Genovese was flown to St. Mary's Medical Center, where he was listed in critical condition. "I know she's very worried about the victim, who was her boyfriend, who she loves very much," her mother said as she walked out of the courtroom in tears. "It's an unfortunate incident." A judge set bond at $20,000.
Diana Lovejoy. Diana Lovejoy and her firearms instructor, Weldon McDavid Jr., were convicted separately of charges including conspiracy to commit murder and attempted murder. At the time of the shooting, Lovejoy and her then-husband, Greg Mulvihill, were in the midst of a heated divorce. The two sides reached an agreement that they would share custody of their young son, and that Lovejoy would pay Mulvihill $120,000. That payment was due weeks after he was shot. Lovejoy and McDavid planned the crime after meeting at a gun range where she was taking lessons. Lovejoy collapsed in court after she was found guilty of a conspiracy charge as well as attempted murder, promoting loud gasps from the courtroom. Her family members sobbed and asked for someone to help her. Judge Sim von Kilanowski cleared the courtroom so the 45-year-old could receive medical attention. Paramedics wheeled her out. It appeared that she had been overcome by shock. After court resumed, the same jury then returned guilty verdicts against McDavid. As his family watched, the 50-year-old put his head in his hands and cried. Lovejoy, of Carlsbad, faces at least 25 years in prison. McDavid, who pulled the trigger, faces 50 years to life. Jodi Arias. Jodi Arias is perhaps one of the most notorious women in contemporary true crime. She smiled in her mugshot, sang "Oh Holy Night" while in police custody, and was convicted of first-degree murder in 2013 in the trial of her former boyfriend, Travis Alexander. On June 4, 2008, Jodi Arias butchered her ex-boyfriend, Travis Alexander, just after they had sex. His body was found days later with 27 stab wounds and a gunshot to the head. Travis Alexander first met Jodi Arias. He thought he'd met the love of his life. Instead, he met his killer. Less than 2 years later, Arias stabbed him at least 24 times in the shower and shot him in the head. Initially, she admitted to the police that she had driven to Alexander's house on June 4th. Arias claimed that they had sex, and she'd started taking photos of him in the shower. But then, she said, two masked intruders appeared and murdered him. But later it turns out she was the killer. Though Arias' defense claimed that she had killed her former boyfriend, Alexander, in self-defense, a jury convicted Arias of first-degree murder. Arias was up for the death penalty, but after 2 mistrials, a judge sentenced Arias to life in prison without the possibility of parole. That was it for today's video. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to our channel and hit the like button.